Hello and welcome. I'm Mr. H with A-Level Tech, and today we're doing something that's wasn't really planned, but I had my Silverado break down on me early yesterday. And so I figured, since most of you are following along, we're in engines class, that we do a live demonstration, so to speak, on what it takes to fix or remedy the problem with this 5.3 and it's having. So a little bit of background. This is a 2007 Silverado 1500 with a 5.3. Now, the engine code is LC9, and an LC9 engine, actually, how do I want to describe it? It's one of those flex fuel 5.3s, and it also has what we call active fuel management, which means when it is running under, let's say, idle or a low load, it actually shuts down to 4 cylinders instead of running off the full 8. Now, a problem with this is, as the engine wears in after hundreds of thousands of miles, the system starts to get gunked up, it starts to fail, and the overall ending result is it needs a motor. But there is a couple of things you can do before you go and spend $4 to $5 grand on a new long block. So I'm going to show you one of the shortcut ways. It doesn't fix the problem, but it can get you by and possibly get maybe another 40 to 50,000 miles out of the engine before the inevitable happens, which is bottom end is let's just say this engine is burning through a level of oil. And it's just because of the design of the engine. It wasn't a great design, and they've improved it since then. But let's see what we got. So this is what happened to Mr. H. Mr. H was driving down the road. He was on his way to work, and all of a sudden, boom, there was a pretty big thud from underneath the hood, and then there was a really hard dead miss. So I had a misfire. The check engine light was flashing. The vehicle was underpowered. It went into limp mode. And what I gathered was, because I've dealt with these on 5.3s before and I've done a whole bunch, is when the vehicle went down into 4-cylinder mode, it shut down cylinders 1, 4, 6, and 7. Now when I got on the gas and demanded, hey, I need all 8 cylinders, okay, so 1, 6, and 7 decided to come back to life, but unfortunately, number 4 decided it wasn't going to. So number 4 decided, I'm going to stay off, and the rest turned on. So what happened was number 4, active management, had failed. I will show you guys what that looks like, but what you just have to grasp right now is it's a dead miss from cylinder 4. We have nothing from cylinder 4. And I've dealt with it before. I know exactly what it feels like. I knew it wasn't something where, oh, this is the crank. Oh, this is, the motor's out. It's just, once you kind of been through a few of these, you understand what's going on. So right now I'm going to show you what this looks like, and it's very easy. If you ever have one of these motors, the easiest thing you can do is take the valve covers off and run the engine for maybe a couple of seconds, and it'll be really obvious, because what you'll see, since this is a push rod engine, and I'll explain how this works in a bit, but you'll see one rocker that is not doing anything at all. Literally not doing a thing while all the other ones are moving, so I'm going to show you what that looks like. So I was able to figure out, just by taking the valve covers off and slowly turning the crank, that it was cylinder 4, and it is the I guess that would be exhaust? No, I guess that would be intake. Yeah, that would be intake. So intake for cylinder 4 is where our issue lies. So the intake valve was not opening for cylinder 4 is what it comes down to. So let's take a look at what this looks like, and then I'll explain how active fuel management and cylinder displacement works on this V8. So right here we have our cylinders. So the way they go for GM is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or sorry, I'm just describing a Ford. Wow, really messed up there. But odd numbers on this bank, even numbers on this bank. So 1, 3, 5, 7, and then 2, 4, 6, 8. So right now we have a problem with cylinder 4, so that's on the passenger side, and we're dealing with the intake. So we're talking about this guy. So if I go around and I see, okay, all these, you know, it's hydraulically adjusted lash, so there should be no play in any of these at any given time. Now, when you finally get to a cylinder, so here's 6, right? So here's, no, that's 6, this is 4. So the ones that shut down are 4, 6, 1, and 7. So for number 4, okay, the exhaust side's fine, but let's see what happens when we get to the intake for cylinder 4. You see that? No bueno, no good. So what's happening is, now down below where the camshaft is, because it's a pushrod V8, this hydraulically actuated lifter has collapsed and decided it's going to stay collapsed. So right now, that pushrod is not pushing up against the rocker, which now I can just do Morse code, you know. So what that means is that valve is not going to open while I'm running, and that's what happened. You know, I went back in 8-cylinder mode, and all of a sudden, you know, that valve's just not going to open, and that's not a good thing to deal with. It was just a plain misfire. Now, when you're looking down into this engine block, and it's very hard to see with a harness, so I'll try to lift it up out of the way. But what you'll see, and you'll see where the screwdriver is I have all these holes in the center of the block. All the other 5.3s will not have this, only the ones with active fuel management and cylinder deactivation. So right here, cylinder 1, 4, and then 6, and then back there you can see 7, but all these ones with holes in them, that is where oil pressure actually goes to shut down those cylinders. So I'll show you the actual plate that goes over the valley of the block, and it'll make more sense then. That's what actually controls how these cylinders shut down. So once again, I've talked about this before in the textbook, but anytime you talk about variable valve timing or cylinder shutdown, you're manipulating engine oil pressure to actually perform a task. So that's what's going on here. So it's taking oil pressure from back there where the oil pressure sending unit is, which is a direct feed to, let's say, the oil pump, and it's using oil pressure to actually push down into these holes. And where these holes are, the camshaft's right down here in the middle. What those holes do is they direct oil to special lifters. So these roller lifters that run on the camshaft. So you got the lifters, the push rod, and then the rockers up top. What they do is they're actually spring loaded. So when they have oil pressure pushed into them, they actually collapse. And when they collapse, it keeps that push rod from actually making contact with the lifter and opening that valve up and down. So that's how they shut down the cylinders on this style of V8 for GM, is they collapse those lifters so that push rod cannot activate the rocker to push that valve back. Now, the problem is when they collapse and let's say the oil pressure is demanded to go away, they need to spring back to life. What happened with this one is it collapsed and then it just stuck. So it's collapsed and it will not expand back to its normal height and rate. So that's what we got to figure out how to do. Now, the way we can get around this is, a lot of mechanics will do this, but it is not a fix. It's not a permanent fix. Is what you can do is you can take either a push rod or a screwdriver that is filed down to a round point. You don't want to actually have something sharp in here, but right below this is where the lifter is. What you can do is you can take a hammer and you can tap on this, and that just shock usually actually makes them, boom, spring back to life. Now, that remedies the fix for now. Oh, you know, oh cool, the lifter is back up and running, but guess what? As soon as it goes down to 4-cylinder again, it's most likely going to get stuck again. So what Mr. H did was he actually ordered a special chip and had it delivered for today, overnight shipping. And what that does is it plugs into the OBD2 port, and it keeps this engine from running on 4 cylinders. It keeps it running on all 8, so it never goes down to 4-cylinder again. Once again, it doesn't fix the issue with the engine, but it will keep it from happening again, and just give a little more time for Mr. H to decide if he wants to put an engine in this in the near future or not. But I will have, there'll be a cutaway here into probably a second video showing how this actually works and how we can get this Morse code rocker back to where it needs to be. But if you like this video, if you like the information and slight bit of entertainment that's in it, by all means, hit the like button, subscribe, comment what you think, But this is Mr. H here with A-Level Tech, and I'm in my backyard, and it's cold and it's rainy, and hopefully you guys like this video. So I'll see you guys in a bit.